Hi, I'm Britt,
And my name is Alissa.
and this is SkeleTales.
And this is the podcast where we strive to answer the age-old question of, is my dead grandma watching me?
I think to dive into that question, we should pull up our wingback chairs, grab our cup of coffee or wine, and ask the expert on all things ghostly. We have with us tonight Monica Ballard, who is a longtime ghost tour guide with Austin Ghost Tours, a paranormal investigator, and the author of the book True Haunted Tales of the Driscoll, Volume 1. Monica, welcome.
Hey, it's great to be here, ladies. SkeleTales. Ooh, let's tell some SkeleTales.
See, I like how you said that, and welcome, because a lot of people do you know the show DuckTales? Have you ever heard of that? DuckTales. Woo! Everyone does it. We sound like a children's show. It's kind of a joke. But you got it right. That's what we were thinking. SkeleTales.
Yeah, that's our vibes.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm glad that read.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Monica, welcome. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
I have been with Austin Ghost Tours for 16 and a half years. Wow. I guess I like it or something. It's always different. It's always changing. I love collecting news stories from the places we go to and places that are off the beaten track a little bit. And the very first time that I was being trained, the guy who was training me showed me a photo that one of his tour guests had taken. And we used to stop at this Victorian mansion, which has since become the Austin Women's Club. It's closed at night unless there's a special occasion, a wedding or something like that happening. And he was on the porch with his guests, and someone stepped back and took a photo of his group, and standing inside the building was a luminous figure of like a teenage girl wearing a Victorian outfit, listening in on his stories. And when I saw that, I realized, oh, it's an interactive tour.
Yeah.
And from then on, I took it a lot more seriously. It was like, okay, the other side is listening. So we have a tremendous responsibility to make sure we tell their truth. And I think it's because we put so much emphasis on research and telling the truth and not passing along urban myths and that sort of thing, that we get more interaction and more evidence photos taken on our tours than any other tour in town.
Awesome.
Interesting. So the ghosts are like, this is the real deal, folks.
Yeah. I had a security guide at the Driscoll pull me aside the other day, and he said, there are a lot of tours coming in here these days. I said, I know. And he said, you're my favorite tour guide, though, because I love listening in on your stories, and I think the ghosts really like you too. So I was like, and you're my new favorite security guard.
Right.
You got to love that validation. That's amazing.
Exactly.
With being a tour guide, you've had a lot of experiences, a lot of ghost apparitions and things, or, happenings. Did you, when you were younger, have experiences like that? Or is it something that's just started since you were a tour guide?
Actually, when I was 30, I found out my mom and I went to go visit a psychic community called Casadega, and it's outside of Florida. It's like between Orlando, it's outside of Orlando, Florida. So it's between Orlando and Daytona Beach, and it's a spiritualist community. And if you've ever heard of Lilydale, New York, it's a sister community of Lilydale. And so my mom and I were there. We were waiting for our psychic readings. And one of the psychics came over and tapped my mom on the shoulder. And she said, your daughter is very special. And my mom said, oh, yeah, she was born with the call. And I was like, what call? Who got the call? What?
Yeah.
What do you mean? And she said, you were born with the afterbirth over your face like a veil, which is supposed to be indicative of second sight, of having psychic abilities. And I said, Mother, this would have explained a lot. as I was particularly going through like age 8 to, up until then.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had a very profound religious experience during my confirmation in the Catholic Church, where I had sort of this vision that exploded in front of me, and it concerned a little angels racing around the bishop's robes at his feet, and another angel in the pew beside me who pointed at the altar and everything that was going on and said, "There is more than this."
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
I thought, is this, the nuns didn't tell us this would be happening.
I got my sponsor. I got my confirmation name. No mention of the angels running around.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
No explanation of the explosion of colors and that sort of thing. And I looked around kind of like, is everybody catching this? Am I getting?
You just thought everyone was seeing it.
Yeah. So that was sort of the first clue that it was like, whatever you're being taught, whatever you're being told, take it with a grain of salt, because there is more to existence than what you see around you. And when I first met my husband to be, the first time that we shook hands, I was interviewing for a job. And the first time we shook hands, it was like our spirits took flight and we were flying around the room saying, "Hi, where have you been? It's been so long," and that sort of thing. And we knew in a moment we were soulmates. And I thought, well, that's impossible because he's married. And and then, and then,
giving us the dirt, Monica. Love it.
That didn't last long. We ended up getting married to one another. We did not say till death do us part.
Oh,
Because we knew it was. Yeah, we knew it wasn't true the last time. So why put it in the fine print? And he passed 18 years ago last week, and he has checked in on numerous occasions just to fix things, to make things right, to tell me not to worry about the money. And things like that. There's always a story that I tell bachelorettes about how he came through on Valentine's Day a few years ago. I was in Des Moines directing some TV commercials for a roofing company. And I don't think there's anything more depressing than Des Moines in February. Everything is brown and gray and cloudy. And we finished about half the spots after the first day. And I said, okay, well, we got half of them done. Let's all go home now, because everybody wants to have a nice romantic dinner with their Valentine. And but everybody was like, oh, and I said, it's all right. It's okay. So I got in my rent-a-car and was pointing back towards the hotel. And our song came on the radio. And so I'm talking out loud to him. I say, "Oh, honey, it's our song, and it's Valentine's Day, and happy Valentine's Day." Just then I look, and there is a red foil heart-shaped balloon bouncing across a brown cornfield, and it comes right in front of my rent-a-car to the other side of the road. And I felt his spirit whoosh into the car to give me a hug. And I received the message, "Sweetie, I'm so darn proud of you."
So many goosebumps just now.
And
that's beautiful.
I will always tell that story to bachelorettes that I have on tour. And I tell them, do not say till death do us part, because if it's for real and it's forever, it can be.
Yeah.
And that always makes them cry. And that's my validation.
I
made the bride cry.
Okay, so we're fast forwarding to now you are a tour guide with the Austin Tour Guide. How did you even decide you wanted to do that and get into being a tour guide?
They needed some extra help around Halloween, and I thought, yeah, I could spin a good yarn. And it sure beat what I was already doing, which was operating the elevator for the University of Texas football stadium, where apparently a number of people majored in and got master's degrees, if not PhDs, in elevator operating, because everybody had some advice as to how to do my job so much better than I was doing it.
Oh my God. I really was like, oh my God, really? I did not know that much was needed to operate an elevator. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
So I thought, I'd much rather be a tour guide and dress up in a costume and tell ghost stories. That sounds great. And for the whole first year, I was sort of, I was the Kelly girl. I was like, if somebody wanted a weekend off, I was the person they called. So I knew one tour, and then I thought, if I learned the other tour, I could maybe get twice as many calls. So I learned the other tour, and then I started helping Janine develop, and Janine's our founder, develop more tours and gathering stories and doing research. And I said, tell me what you do at the Austin History Center. How do you find out the backstory behind a building or a person or something like that? So she taught me all of that. And then eventually we started doing investigations, and we created a TV show called Haunted Texas. And it just developed into one thing after another, and training the other tour guides and giving them little tricks of the trade. Like, okay, if you're walking with a group and you see the light in front of you is starting to change, then hang a left or hang a right and go another block down and then cross the street. Or
don't just stand at the corner there.
Don't just stand at the corner unless you feel like you need everybody to catch up. Like if it's a large group or if there's lollygaggers or something like that, then go ahead and wait for the light. Don't try to cross half the people across the street. Just stand there, wait for the light, turn around, and point out something of interest around you.
Okay.
The thing. So little tricks of the trade learned over the years.
Now you have Haunted Texas. How do we watch that? I didn't know that it existed.
Well, it had like 3 lifetimes.
Okay.
It was an independent series at first. And then we became PBS's only show about paranormal history.
Ooh.
And we couldn't find a sponsor, so we only developed a few shows, like 3 episodes of that iteration. And then we went totally independent and developed 2 more episodes. So it's kind of stopped and started.
Okay. But gosh, the wealth of knowledge that you guys have at this point about Texas history and then Texas haunted history. I mean, it could fill novels, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I loved traveling down to Goliad, where the Goliad battle took place at the Presidio. And we were all in the Presidio, which is the general's, General Fannon's quarters, where he stayed. And we were all in there gathered over a shot list. And we stopped talking and all looked over to the side at the same time at a doorway, because we all thought we saw something go past the doorway. Yeah, that can be a creepy place, because you go out into the courtyard there, and it's this huge fort, and there's no power, there's no electricity. And yet our EMF detectors were picking up blips and signals of other entities there. I mean, we were getting all sorts of readings of fluctuations in electromagnetism where there shouldn't have been anything. And it was awesome.
So, with all of your years, I mean, over 16 years of tour guides, do you have any stories that stick out in your mind as the most memorable or exciting to you?
One of the things that I wanted to share with you ladies was a fairly recent experience at the Paramount Theater along Congress Avenue. And what had happened was that it was some Saturday morning. I'm just tooling around online going, it's hot as Hades and I need something cool to do. And the Paramount always has this summer film series. It's this grand old theater built in 1914. And when they show films in the summer film series, it's on the big screen with the big sound, the Technicolor, the CinemaScope, and all that. And I thought, let's see what's playing in the summer film series. So I go to their homepage and I see on their homepage that they're going to be offering a tour Saturday, August 5th, 10 o'clock, $5. So I immediately text Janine and one of our tour guides in training. I tell them all about it and ask who's in. And they're like, yeah. So we all get there at 10 a.m. that Saturday morning. And we're standing outside in the heat and we were waiting and waiting and waiting. And finally, about 10:25, guy comes up and starts unlocking the door. And I said, excuse me, sir, what time is the 10 o'clock tour really? And he said, I don't know anything about a tour. Just then, Seth, the building manager, walks up, starts unlocking the door. And he goes, Seth, we offering tours now on Saturdays. These ladies are here for a tour. And he goes, oh, no, I'm the building manager. I didn't know that. And I said, well, it's on your website. And he pulls out his big ass phone, calls up the website and says, show me.
Yeah.
Tour's gone. It's gone. It's disappeared. I said, I feel like an idiot. I said, I swear to God, it was there. And he said, look, you ladies have been waiting out here for what, half an hour or so? Come on in. I'll give you a private tour.
Nice.
Private tour. So I immediately roll audio on my iPhone because I don't want to miss a single story about the history and the artists that have played that stage and, things like that. He's showing us all around. We're asking questions and stuff like that. So we're very grateful. We leave and I get home and I told Janine, I said, I'm going to transcribe the stories so that we have more backstory on the Paramount when we talk about it. And as I'm going through the audio transcribing, I find out we're not alone on that tour. We were invited there for a reason. So let me think about some of the clips that I sent. I sent one where Seth was leading us across the stage and the curtain was down and there were only some shop lights on. And Seth turns around and apologizes and says, oh yeah, the lights aren't on back here. And there's a very, very strange voice with a kind of an odd echo to it of a man saying, it's dark.
And since you were generous enough to share these clips with us, we were actually able to play this for our listeners so they can hear and get freaked out along with us.
Oh yeah, the lights aren't on back here. Oh yeah, the lights aren't on back here.
That's freaky.
Another one, I asked Seth if anything had happened to him. And he said, no, not to me, but my manager was telling me that he was cleaning up down towards the front around aisle C or D, and he thought he saw someone approaching him, and he stood up to let this woman walk by, and when he looked, there was nobody there. So that kind of freaked him out a little bit, and we all laughed. What we didn't hear at the time was a female voice saying, sorry.
Okay, again, we're going to play this clip for our listeners.
My boss said one day he was down there, row C or D, and he was standing there sweeping something up, and he saw something out of his peripheral vision, like a lady walking towards him. So he stood up and moved to the side to let her pass, and there was nobody there. So he was like, that freaked him out a little bit.
Sorry.
So he was like, that freaked him out a little bit.
Sorry.
So he was like, that freaked him out a little bit.
Sorry.
So he was like, that freaked him out a little bit.
Sorry.
And he was telling us that they show the films with this big behemoth of a projector. I mean, they show films the old-fashioned way with the big reels, right? And he said it's a huge machine. There are only like one or two guys in the whole state of Texas who knows how to fix the machine, and one of them, his name is John, and we like him, but we hardly ever want to rely on him to call him.
Yeah.
And after he mentioned John's name, there is another man's voice behind us who says, "Gentlemen."
And here is that clip.
And there's only like one guy who really knows how to do it properly in the whole state, and his name is John. He's taught a few people how to do it, but he's pretty much it. So he's pretty much it. So he's pretty much it. So.
Now, I'd been playing that clip for about 2 years,
Uh-huh.
all those fantastic clips, and telling people we were invited to the Paramount by the spirits.
No kidding.
And this was exceptional. Well, last Halloween, I was invited to go and speak to a private school just on the outskirts of University of Texas. And being a private school, the class sizes were very small. And I think the senior class maybe had 18 students.
Mhm.
And so I said, "What do you want to hear about?" And their teacher said, "Well, a lot of them were in the theater. So do you have any stories about have any theater stories?" And I said, "Oh, even better. I've got some great audio from the Paramount Theater." I played them all that audio. And I noticed that when I played the clip where the ghost voice says, "Gentlemen,"
Yeah.
the teacher put her hand to her heart and stepped back a little bit. Now, generally, the clip that gets the biggest reaction is, "Sorry."
Yeah.
She had the big reaction there. Right? And so after I was finished all the clips, I said, "Now, ma'am, I couldn't help but notice your reaction on the clip where someone said," and I believe that it's the projectionist who died in the projection booth of a heart attack back in the year 2000. His name was Walter Norris Jr. He was the first African-American to be hired by this all-white theater back in 1960. So he worked there years and years and years. He was known to everybody as Bear because he was kind of a big guy. And from what I hear, he gave great bear hugs. And I said, "I couldn't help but notice your reaction with who I think was probably Bear
Yeah.
saying the word gentleman." And she said, "Well, Monica, what you don't know is," and I said, wait, I love when stories start this way. "Tell me why I was supposed to be here today."
Yeah.
And she said, "I know John. He's been a family friend for years. And what you don't know is that John wanted Walter to feel incredibly welcomed and accepted at the Paramount. So anytime they would see one another down a hallway or anything like that, John would stop where he was and he would raise one hand in salutation and he would bow at the waist a little bit and say, 'Gentlemen.'"
Get out.
Walter
Get out.
would do the same. He would stop where he was and he would raise one hand and bow at the waist and say, "Gentlemen."
Oh,
Oh my
shit.
God. I
Oh my
love
God.
this.
Entire body and goosebumps.
You are a fabulous storyteller, let me add, Monica, because I was just
my
like, you set that up
gosh.
perfect. Oh, that is amazing. And 2 years in the making. You didn't even know
I
the
had-
connection.
know.
I said, "You have just added so much dimension to that one word that mystified me." I just thought, okay, he regards John as a gentleman.
Right.
I had no idea of the tremendous backstory
Yes.
contained in that one word. And I mean, we both, our eyes welled up a little bit. And when I left them, I immediately got in the car and I called up one of our other tour guides, Michael, and I said, "Are you playing those clips at the Paramount?" And he said, "Yeah, that's my big finale." And I said, "Are you wearing socks? Because I'm about to knock them off."
That is too much. Oh my gosh.
Wow. Truly.
Yeah.
Whew. That's incredible. That's incredible. And that wasn't even like a proper, like a paranormal investigation. That was just like, oh, hey, let's go tour the Paramount.
Yeah,
So many elements. So many elements.
just looking for something to do on a hot Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon.
I kind of like this angle. I might just start hanging outside of buildings and be like, I heard there was a tour here at 10 a.m. Oh, look, it disappeared from the website. I don't know. And like, I feel like 50-50 chance of getting a private tour of someplace now. I like this.
Some of the interesting interactions that we've gotten, some of the habits that I've noticed on investigations and when we've captured audio and that sort of thing, is that when a spirit is new or isn't used to communicating with us on this side, that their voices tend to be very robotic.
Interesting.
Yeah, like they haven't learned to inject emotion into what it is that they're saying or anything like that. Very often we'll get some sort of single word from them, like dead or something like that, and it sounds very, very robotic and very monotone. Also, they have a tendency to every now and then repeat something that you've just said. This happened just a couple of weeks ago at a location where two other women and I were investigating. We were setting up the space, and I have this device, the PSB-11, and it's a spirit box, but it also has a temperature alarm on it. So when something interacts with it, they can raise or lower the temperature, and a little alarm will beep. And I said to the ladies, they said, do you want to sit with us? And I said, no, I want to be over here by this piece of equipment to reset the temperature thing when it goes off. And just then a male voice says, off. Like, so I sent you a clip from the Bartlett School where we've been doing investigations. Bartlett, Texas is just east of Georgetown. It's northeast of Austin by about 40 miles or so.
Okay.
And there's a grammar school there that was built in 1906.
Wow.
And the town is now using it as a museum and a community center. So it's in the process of renovation. And because you're renovating a space like that, you tend to stir up a little bit more than just dust. And we were upstairs where there's absolutely no power. It was me and Janine and the historian, the lady who's the main historian and sort of custodian of the place. And there were some lightning rods on display in the room. And Janine said, oh, what are these? And I said, oh, those are lightning rods. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, they go on top of barns or houses. And when lightning strikes, the bolt goes down, hits that, and then travels down to the ground harmlessly, so it doesn't set the building on fire. And she said, oh, it's structural. And a few moments later, you can hear a man repeat, it's structural.
And here is the audio clip from this occurrence.
Structural.
Not female.
Not female. No females in the building at the time. And then on our first public investigation of at the Bartlett School, we had about 16 people in the group. And we started downstairs, took a tour of the building. We're talking about all the former classrooms and what they were now. And then we headed upstairs, and there's no power upstairs. So everybody's walking around with flashlights. And I mean, it's like an old school lockdown kind of thing you'd see on cable.
Yeah.
Everybody fumbling around in the dark and stuff and waving flashlights around. And we're all upstairs, and you can hear mumbling and talking. And all of a sudden, I heard the first 6 notes of Scott Joplin's The Entertainer. Da 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 da. Just like that. And I asked somebody else in the group, I said, what was that? And he said, what was what? And I said, I just heard piano music. And somebody else came forward and said, was it the entertainer? And I said, yes.
Oh my God.
And I said, everybody stop where you are. And I did a head count. And I said, okay, we're all present and accounted for. Everyone is upstairs. The only working piano is downstairs.
And here's the clip. You can really hear the piano music in this one.
What was that?
I thought you were my reflection. What was what?
I heard piano music.
Did you hear the entertainer?
Yes.
Me too. I heard it.
Oh my God, what?
Oh my God. So there is a piano on the premises then.
Yes.
I mean, I heard that too, and it is very clearly like piano, music. It is so clear. Children typically, I mean, they go to school there, but would they really haunt a school? I can't, like, is that where they would go back? But you're like an employee, maybe a music teacher or someone who spends so much time there and years there. Who do you think is haunting this place?
It's a variety. I mean, we've gotten adult male voices, female voices. We've gotten former teachers who know the historian by another name. And they called her by the name that she had when she went to school there.
Whoa.
Yeah. And
it would make more sense that the teachers would be haunting because they're there year after year, day after day.
I feel like it's not necessary. The kids who were there didn't necessarily die as kids.
Right.
But,
True. Okay.
that oftentimes hauntings are an attraction to a person, place, or object. And that if there was a dynamic impression that it was that person's happiest time or most emotional time or something like that, that's the energy that remains. They could have lived on to be 80 years old and died in a nursing home or whatever. But if their happiest days were at that school, playing on that playground or running through those halls or singing on the stage of the auditorium, then that's the presence that remains.
I love that.
I love this theory because we tend to ask people what is your theory on ghosts, or why is a certain place haunted and why are they haunting there, and what, I love this. Might be my favorite though. Like, it's just your favorite memory.
Your
you get to like
place.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I often say that when people see loved ones in spirit, that they see them at an age when they were their most vibrant.
Yeah.
And I know that's certainly true of the few times that I've dreamed of Jim.
Mm-hmm.
It's when we were first married. And so when he was in his late 30s, 40s, that sort of thing. And just his vibration is that essence.
Yeah.
And I think the same is true of children as well. And people say, "Oh, it's so sad. They must have died young or whatever." It's like, not necessarily. I mean, there are so many unanswered questions about what constitutes a haunting and why that presence remains. We have 2 ghosts in our choir loft at church, in the cathedral. And people say, "Oh my God, it's a sanctified place. What are these, stuck spirits doing here?" And I said, they're not stuck. They can go anywhere they want. The very fact that that the lady is not there all the time leads me to believe that it is our singing in the choir that draws her presence to us.
Oh, I love that.
That there is some sort of frequency, music of the spheres, call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
Our brain waves, and she only comes around when we're singing something very difficult and singing it very well. So think about what's scientifically going on there. We are at a very focused state. We're at performance level, right?
Yeah.
The congregation, they're at a very worshipful state. And then you add the elements of the light coming through the stained glass windows, the smell of the incense, the reverence of the mass, that sort of thing. I feel her energy about 4 feet away from me, right there by the organ, and it blossoms out like a rose or something like that. She's a very beautiful spirit. And then she communes with us for those few minutes. And then when the piece is done and we're turning in our music and we're thinking to ourselves, well, section B could have gone a little better, but for the most part, that was it. And we get back in this state again where everything, the beta world where everything is bombarding us, then that disconnects us from her, and she floats away into whatever dimension she explores. And
interesting.
We actually have someone in the soprano section who can actually see her. So very often when I start to feel her presence, I'll get Marsha's attention about two people down. I go, Marsha, and I kind of nod over in that direction to go, oh yes, oh yeah.
I love that. You both see her.
What does she look like?
From what I hear, from what Marsha tells me, she is from the 1890s era. So she's wearing a very fitted green velvet sort of gown with a bustle. And she has a little hat perched on the front part of her head with her hair piled up and a brown feather that curls around the side of her face.
Wow, so much detail.
And she gets very upset if things in the cathedral are too noisy, if people don't seem to have enough respect for the space or something like that. I'll sense her energy as being very pointy, very prickly. And then we have a child who used to hang around the school that the custodian tells me wears sort of like an 1890s pinafore dress. Mm-hmm. But the child, during the pandemic, when the school was closed down, I started picking up this child on the SLS camera on my phone, the SLS structured light sensor. Okay. And there's an app on my phone where this child shows up hanging around the organist, and even knocked music off of the organist's bench. And our choir master just goes over and picks it up and puts it back on the bench again. And when the piece was done, I called Jeffrey over and I said, the little girl who used to hang around the school that Jeremiah told us about, and he said, yeah. And I said, she's hanging out here now because it's Christmas and all the action is over here. And he said, how do you know? And I showed him the video of this stick figure knocking music off of Brooks.
Oh, you got the video of it.
I showed him the video, and he just kind of walked away like, oh, great. Now there are two of us.
I think that's so interesting because music is one of those things, like for me, when I can hear music, like you get goosebumps from it. Like there's like an energy, and it's almost like that seems to make sense. Just the energy, the level, the resonance of it, that they can either come in on that or that, they're able to hang out there or something.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's like it calls to them and draws them in your direction. And then you add to that, even if you're listening to a particular piece or song that takes you back to someone that you once knew, to someone who's maybe passed or something like that, then those thought particles add to the attraction. And so I'll often tell people, particularly on investigations, if we get contact tonight, it may not be the spirits who reside in this building. It could be any one of people that you brought with you, because right now they're finding you to be very open to the possibility of communication. And so they may be using this opportunity to put an odd thought in your head or an odd smell or something like that. We may be in a room and all of a sudden you're smelling Aunt Marge's cologne or perfume or something like, oh my God, Shalimar, Aunt Marge, hello, or something like that. So it's not always the presences that we find in the building where we're investigating. It's the company everybody brought with them. This is particularly true around Day of the Dead. So Halloween, Day of the Dead,
yeah,
and the holidays. So people always ask, "Oh, is it especially active around Halloween?" And I said, sometimes, but more often the holidays. So Halloween, yes, when it comes to the ghosts and residents.
Yeah.
When it comes to presences that people bring with them, it's the holidays. People have asked if they do need special psychic abilities or something like that to experience something. And I tell them, a lot of what I experience on tour or in church or anywhere is mainly muscle memory. It's, oh, I know what that feels like. That's okay. Yes. I just walked right through something right there, and I don't know what that is. So it's more a familiarity of recognition, of understanding the ways that they communicate, and then keying in on them just a little bit faster than the ordinary person might.
I think you have that, Alissa, where you have the feeling side of thing, but not necessarily the visual side of thing. Right?
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Yes, I've just never seen anything with my eyeballs, but I definitely get feels. I get a lot of sensory sort of things, smells, like you said, like the Shalimar. Like my grandfather. Like there was a few weeks back that I was like, dude, it smells like grandpa in here. Like what? Like it, and it's so weird. I'm like, why and how? But it's okay. Like it's calm. It's not a scary feeling or anything like that. But yeah. So that's interesting insight. I mean, just an affirmation that that's someone who's more experienced with it. It's an intuition sort of based experience.
Yeah. There's a stop along our tour where we talk about a fireman who was hurt in a building. It was a furniture store at the time. It was back in 1916. And his spine was crushed. And he died the following year in 1917 after being paralyzed for a year. And he was the first firefighter to die in the line of duty for the city of Austin. And so when the furniture store became a bar, he started hanging out there because, who wouldn't want to hang out at a bar rather than a furniture store? And he's a trickster and a prankster, loves to play tricks, particularly on new employees and, the appearing, disappearing act and that sort of thing. And just odd sorts of practical jokes. And I was telling my group this, and it was like one of the first hot and muggy nights. It's probably around Memorial Day weekend. And I had a couple on the tour, and he was a military guy from Colleen, and his wife was 8 months pregnant. And so I made sure that she had a seat on a bench so that she could take it easy. And I finished telling the story about Jimmy Glass and sort of said, okay, now we have one more stop on the tour, and I want to play for you some remarkable audio evidence. So let's head back that way towards 3rd Street. And I turned and I felt like I walked through something. And I thought, well, that's really odd. I usually never pick up on anything in front of the fire station here, but okay. So what I didn't notice was that the man and woman from Colleen peeled off and left the tour at that point, because it takes about 45 minutes drive back to Colleen.
Yeah.
So I had no idea. And I ended the tour. And Sunday afternoon, Janine calls me up, and I'm over at a friend's house socializing. And she says, I'm conferencing you in. I have a man and a woman who were on your tour last night. And I said, Janine, I'm over at a friend's. Hello? And she said, tell them what you told me. And they said, well, I don't know if you've noticed, but we left the tour after the fire station. And we went back home and we paid the babysitter. And we were sitting at the kitchen table talking about the stories that we heard on your tour. And suddenly our 4-year-old son, Miguel, came out of his bedroom and he said, there's a white man in my room wearing a uniform. And he's pointing at the ceiling, and the ceiling is on fire.
What?
But not really.
Oh my Lord. Yes. I love it. Goosebumps.
And he said, I think you just had a bad dream, Miguel. Go back to sleep. And the next morning when he got up, they said, do you remember what you told us last night? And he said, uh-huh. There was a white man in my room and he was wearing a uniform and he had those things on his shoulders like your uniform, Daddy. Now, Lieutenant Jimmy Glass would have been buried in full dress fireman's uniform with epaulets on his shoulders. And
Oh my gosh.
he was pointing at the ceiling and the ceiling was on fire, but not really.
Oh, I love it. We hear story after story of kids seeing things and just not realizing what they're reporting exactly. They're just like, hey, Mom, there's a guy in my room. Like, because they have no control over their lives,
there's
really.
no,
You
like,
know, they're
filter.
just like...
So naturally, the parents' question to us was, what the fuck does this mean?
Yeah, we didn't sign up for this.
I was trying to be kind and the Glinda the Good Witch of the sort of thing. And I said, well, you know, you came back and you were sitting in the next room and you were talking about what you had experienced on tour. And obviously this last story really resonated with you. And your thought particles seeped into your son's room where he was at delta brainwave level. And so he might have conjured up this image in his mind based on what you were talking about in the next room.
You don't think the spirit of the firefighter followed them home?
That's exactly what Janine told them.
Right. That's immediately where my brain would have gone.
Cut to the chase, didn't pussyfoot around, did not sugarcoat it in any way, and said, well, I think you need to be careful around fire for the next couple of weeks.
Oh my word, Janine. Oh my goodness.
I think it's a warning. I think Jimmy Glass followed you home to give you a warning to be careful around fire for the next couple of weeks. And I was like, well, okay.
I mean, she may not be wrong about that. Like,
May not
maybe
be
they,
wrong.
like, remembered, I'm going to blow that candle out before I leave the house. You don't know.
Yeah. Or be careful with the gas stove or yeah.
Or
Yeah.
maybe Jimmy Glass is like, what? You guys didn't like my story? You went home? What? Like, you don't believe this? I'm going to show you.
Gonna show you.
Like, I am here. Oh my goodness.
So after hearing that, I have sort of an addendum to Jimmy's story.
Yeah.
Telling the guests, you know, that when you're done with this tour, you may not be done. They may not be done with you. So if anything happens after this tour this evening, if you receive any messages from the other side, or you find any extraordinary photos or anything like that, please, feel free to contact us and let's talk about what may be going on. Yeah.
Do you ever get freaked out or scared or of that sort of situation, inviting anything evil into your world or your space from the other side? Do you even believe that there is like an evil on, if that's a possibility?
I do. But I have a very bright presence who has promised to never leave my side. And if anything tries to harm me, he's going to swoop in and take care of it. Believe me, he was 5'3" in life. He is a much, much bigger spirit now. I've heard from several people. They will look up and over my shoulder and say, whoa, who's this? I go, yeah,
Wow.
that's Jim, the little leprechaun in the former life. with the red hair,
Giant.
5'3" stature is now a giant spirit who watches over me.
Super protector.
Yes,
I
yeah.
love
So I fear very little. I have only found that I have sort of brushed up against dark forces by accident when I visited a jail in Fairfield County, I want to say. It's east of Dallas, and there was a whole museum complex with a museum and a moonshiners church and a jail. And the jail was upstairs and the family lived downstairs. And when we were walking through the jail, we were recording audio, and we didn't know until we went through the audio afterwards that the women in particular were having a lot of rude things being said to them, like, I'm going to fuck you.
Mhm.
But at the time, we really had no idea that any of that was going on. Really, one of the most astonishing things that's ever happened to me was really not on a ghost tour. I was working as a tour guide at the Texas State Capitol and was in my favorite room, the Senate chamber. And I always tended to go long in the Senate. And gosh darn it, my time would be up, and there was no time to go to the House of Representatives, which I considered a much more boring room. So I would herd everybody out of the Senate chamber, and I would point across the rotunda, and I'd say, and over yonder, that's the House of Representatives, and you really ought to go see it. But our time is done, so go on over there and see that. Thank you for visiting the Texas State Capitol. By the way, they expect you to talk that way. The tourists expect you to talk that way, and they could just consider you delightful if you do.
Oh yeah.
That would be me. That's my expectation.
So I was in the Senate chamber. It was Saturday morning. I was droning on about the huge paintings and the desks that are over 127 years old. And all of a sudden, I hear what sounds like a June bug around my left ear, just kind of like zzz, like that. And I look over and there's nothing there. And then whoosh, I feel something walk right through me.
Ooh.
And Capitol tour guide Monica is going on very calmly, talking about the furniture and the carpeting and the massive paintings. Ghost tour guide Monica is like, what the fuck was that? Oh, you know what that was? It was someone walking right the hell through you. And I got very flustered and sort of wrapped up my spiel and herded everybody toward the door. And I motioned across the rotunda and I said, House of Representatives, it's that way. Yeah. And I left. I went down the elevator and all the hair on my arms was standing straight up. And I was like, oh my God, I have to shake this off. And I went into the tour guide office to get a drink of water. And one of the other tour guides who was in the Senate chamber, making sure that no one was bringing any soda in or anything like that, approached me and she said, what happened to you, Monica? You get very flustered in there. I said, Esther, you know, I do the ghost tours on the weekend. I swear to God, something walked right through me. And she said, it was a lot colder in that room today than normal. Just then, another tour guide walks in, stops at the door, hands on hips, and says, okay, who died? We're like, what? And she said, I was just in the House of Representatives. I didn't go there. And there's a vase of flowers on one of the desks and a purple drape over the chair. So we go to the tour guide office computer and we find out, yes, a member of the House of Representatives had died the night before. And everybody's like, oh, that's what. And I said, I was in the Senate. He was a member of the House, unless he stirred something up or something like that. So that doesn't make any sense. Well, the following weekend, we're having dinner at Janine's house. All the tour guides once a month get together and we swap stories and all that.
I'd love to be a fly on that wall. Go ahead.
I'm telling the story, and Elizabeth, one of our part-time tour guides, just starts cackling. And I said, what? Now, Elizabeth, full-time, arranges for all the school tours that visit the Texas State Capitol. And she said, was this last weekend? And I said, yeah, it was last Saturday. And she said, was it Representative Legler from the Woodlands area? And I said, yeah, it sounds familiar. And she starts laughing again. I said, what? Let me in on the joke. And she said, Monica, that man was notorious for always hanging around the Senate chamber and asking the senators, hey, what bills are up? What are you voting on? Huh? And they always had to turn his ass around and kick him in the pants and say, excuse me, Representative Legler, I believe your place is across the rotunda in the House of Representatives. So apparently, upon his death, he wanted one last run of the place. He didn't care who was in his way, my crowd, me, nothing. He made a beeline through all of us, right through the Texas Senate.
Oh, man.
I love that. Oh my God. He'll probably just hang out there. He's like, finally.
Yeah.
They're not going to kick me out now.
I'm never leaving.
I'm sitting in the speaker's chair and put my feet up on the desk. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Now, Monica, before we run out of time, I want to ask you about your book.
Sure.
You've written a book about the haunted tales of the Driscoll. Tell us about it.
The Driscoll Hotel, built 1886 by cattle baron Colonel Jesse Driscoll, who still haunts the hotel along with a number of other apparitions and goings on. And one of the reasons that I believe the Driscoll is so haunted is because underground, all of downtown Austin, it's honeycombed with artesian springs. So it's the movement of that water combined with the building materials, limestone, brick, the pillars inside are cast iron. There's glass and brass and parties, lots of life. A lot of times hauntings in a building don't have anything to do with the number of deaths, but how much life there still is in the building, because that movement of water and the building materials, it's something called the stone tape theory. Energy is confined and it builds up, and every now and then it explodes in paranormal activity. And I think this is why the Driscoll Hotel is so haunted. It's sort of at this epicenter of all these things going on. And I sent you a clip of an interesting story that I got from one of our tour guests. We were checking in the tour, and I asked them what they did with that beautiful day that we had. Yeah. And they said, we got a kind of a preview of the Driscoll Hotel. And they said, in fact, we have an odd story that happened around the secret door. And I said, wait, hang on. So happens I collect odd stories about the Driscoll Hotel. I immediately started rolling audio and collected this story of a man who, as this couple was talking with one of the employees about the architecture and the hauntings and that sort of thing, this guy peers from out of one of the hidden doors that the employees use to get very quickly from place to place. And he pushes the door open and he peers around the corner and looks at this couple and the employee kind of like they're being really annoying or something like that, or talking too loud or something like that. And just as they take a good look at him and kind of like, dude, what? And a waiter comes past him, through the other guy, and continues on his way. But there's nothing like hearing it from the guy who originally told me the story. So why don't you play that clip at this time, and I'll tell you more on the other end.
Okay, here's the clip.
I've always been kind of a skeptic, and then there were these panels, and you don't know that they're doors, and the waiters would come out and stuff like that. So the guy's telling us about this girl that throws a red ball and all this stuff down the stairs. All of a sudden, one of those secret little doors opens up, and this guy, and he's wearing like a black suit, and he was like watching us like this out the door. And we thought it was an employee or whatever. All of a sudden, the door opens, and a dude just walks right through this guy with a plate of food. They didn't even see him. Like, he just walked right through him and came out. My wife and I were like, we said, hey, we just saw something. And he goes, it was the guy. And he goes, yeah, I know. We've seen, or, we know about that. That happens.
So a few weeks ago, I had drinks with a psychic medium at the Driscoll, and I said, I got a favor. I'm buying the next round on the condition that we go down to the vault. There's a bank vault from when the bank lobby used to be in the hotel. And I said, we got to hang up by the vault and you have to introduce me to this guy because I'm doing him an injustice.
Yeah.
I know he's very stuck up. I know he's not stuck up, but he's very reserved and very serious. And
Maybe judgmental.
yes.
You can, that,
And I'm calling him Grumpy Gus. And that ain't right. I shouldn't be doing that. So introduce me to him and tell me more about him. And we went down there and she said, yeah, he's here. He's here. This is his spot. This is his area right here. And I said, did he work for the bank? And she said, I don't know, but this is his spot. And he watches everything from here. And his name is Tom. Oh, excuse me, Thomas. Yeah. And he doesn't like little kids and their grubby little hands all over everything and their shrill little voices. And he doesn't like disruptive guests. But he likes you. He likes you because you tell the truth. And he likes you very much of all the tour guides that come here. And so that was
yes.
And I said, thank you, Thomas. I will stop calling you Grumpy Gus.
Lovely Thomas from here on out.
Some tour guests once saw him in the vault counting money, and they asked if they could take his photo. And he kind of, sniffed at them and turned his back like they made him lose count or something. And when they looked through the viewfinder of the camera, he disappeared from the viewfinder. And when they looked up, he was gone from the vault. And there's only one door in and out of the vault. Well, the following week, Alexander, our tour guide at the time, is telling some stories, and he loses track of where he is in the story because he says he sees a guy who looks wrong. He's in black and white, and the rest of the world is in Technicolor. And he's filtering in and out of view behind his tour group, never taking his eyes off of Alexander, the tour guide, the whole time. And he disappears behind a pillar and never reemerges. And Alexander's trying to go on with his story, but the whole time he's thinking, where's the dude? Where's the black and white dude? Where is he? Hasn't come out. And he finally stops and he says, folks, I don't know how to explain what it was I just saw. And a woman steps forward from the other side of the tour and says, I saw him too. He came out of the wall.
Well, Alexander sounds like he might have to step up his tour guide game. He doesn't seem too pleased with him. Take some notes from Monica, Alexander. Go around. So your book is all about stories from the Driscoll and the history of the Driscoll?
Yes, the history. And then I spent about a year. We used to end our tours at the Driscoll. And so after the crowd would go away, I would get a drink from the bar and I would sit in the lobby in costume and just sip my wine and wait. And people would come up to me and share. Guests, the hotel, employees, security guards would show me amazing footage from the security cameras. Just regular people who were familiar with the hotel. People would come up and share stories with me, and I write them down or record them. And then I started categorizing them into phenomenon or common experiences or areas of the hotel, that sort of thing. And collected quite a few that I put in volume 1. And then the hotel got bought by the Hyatt chain.
Yes.
And this was the Hyatt's first historic property purchase. And they really didn't know what to make of ghosts. And I've seen the hotel change hands about 4 times. It always starts out the same. It always starts out, we are not haunted. Don't even bother us with this nonsense, this haunted nonsense, because we're not haunted. And then about a year and a half in, it's kind of like, okay, we might be haunted. Year 3, it's like, all right, what the fuck? We're haunted. Come on in with your special groups and we'll do experiences and package deals. And that's where the Hyatt is now.
Okay.
I can understand how originally they were resistant, because how can you put something like Paranormal Activity in a training manual?
Oh, truly. Yeah.
Standard operating procedure, not here.
Well, when we interviewed Maverick, a few weeks back, he told us, we asked him where the most haunted place in Texas that he thought was. And he said, without beat, Driscoll. He said there's the most hauntings per capita in this one building.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's because it's not abandoned. It's still being used. And there's still a tremendous amount of life and passion. You got weddings, wedding receptions. You got gubernatorial inaugural balls, little girl birthday teas, Christmas parties, graduation parties. You have all this sense of celebration and movement there and emotion that it imprints on the building. And
I imagine it would draw spirits in. Like that would be a place that as a spirit you would want to be like, I want to be a part of all this.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, former staff members and people who worked for the hotel their whole lives, guests who may have had memorable times and happy moments there. I'm sure, at some point, me in costume will show up there.
Right.
That's right.
Confuse the hell out of everyone. It's like, well, she was a Victorian woman, but she was wearing a microphone. So, what the hell is all that?
Heck yeah! You just all the happenings there. I've never even been, but I kind of want to haunt that place too. I want to be there.
That'll be one of the first places we go when you come visit me, Alyssa.
Oh, okay.
Driscoll.
Yeah, no, I have to go.
And
to
then we'll go on Monica's tour. And
We'll have drinks. I'll show you around.
Yeah, I
love
love
that.
Now, Monica, when we do our SkeleTalks, that's what it is when we interview people, we have one question, final question that we ask at the end of the night. And it is, what 3 objects would we need to bring to a seance to summon you from the afterlife?
Ooh, well, let's see. Probably a good strong cup of French roast coffee with a dollop of creamer.
Nice.
That might bring me around. A recording of a piece that I got to sing with the cathedral choir. It's Fauré's. Gabriel Fauré wrote a requiem, and the final piece in it is called In Paradisum. And you need to look this up and listen to it because it is celestial, is the only way to put it. And I think if you were to play that music, I would definitely come skirting around. Fauré,
I just wrote it down.
Yeah. Faure, Gabriel Fauré. And third, a sheet of paper with the words, Monica, I need your help with a creative project.
I love it.
You'll come running from the afterlife. I'm here.
And maybe followed by the words, let's have a drink and we'll talk about it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Because that's all you have to say to me. And it's kind of like, hey, I'm there. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, this is great. I am so at the seance. We'll get our I was going to say record player, but I was like, I don't even know how to find a record player.
I have a record player. I don't know where the record is. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get a record.
The one record?
We could learn it, Britt. We'll get a choir. Come on, it's a seance. We're gonna
no records.
Yeah, some coffee for all, a choir, and then we're gonna have a project. We'll plan a project that we really only Monica can help with.
Yes,
we got this.
I love it.
We got it, Monica.
We're there. That's great. Oh, Monica, this has been so much fun.
For me too. I love sharing these stories, and people ask, why have you done this for so long? I said, because I kind of found a passion for telling people, yes, what I learned when I was 8 years old is true. There is more than this.
Yeah.
If I can pass that message along, that there is very little to fear, and that the hauntings can be comforting and not the whole booga booga in the closet type of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as we love to be, as much excitement as we find to be frightened, in hearing the stories that I shared with you this evening, you got as many goosebumps out of the confirmation of existence beyond this realm. And that's what I want to bring. Not so much the creep factor, but
Right.
you know what? Love is eternal, energy is eternal. It just changes form. And that's what I'm here to preach.
I love that.
And that's exactly why we started the podcast. Like literally that was like what you just said is we want to know if there's more to what we see in this earthly realm. And so I can tell you have such a passion for what you do. And I wish these podcasts were like 5 hours long because I could listen
Well, you just gotta have
all
me
night. I will. Yes.
have me
So
back again.
lovely.
Oh, we will. We will.
And Britt, I hope that you'll join us sometime on an investigation.
Oh, I was going to ask you. Yes. So if I wanted to go on a tour with the Austin Ghost Tour with you as my guide, how do I do that?
Well, getting the right guide, that can be a little tricky. You might have to call Janine and ask, who's on the schedule, when can we take a tour with Monica or Maverick or whoever you want to experience. Or if you already been on a tour with Maverick, now you want to go with Monica or vice versa or something like that.
Yeah.
Make sure that you look for the original Austin Ghost Tours at austinghosttours.com. We've kind of had some competitors move into the market recently who have stolen. Let's call it what it is. Stolen our identity, stolen our name. And they're from out of state. They've gotten all their stories online. They haven't done the legwork. They haven't done the research. They don't have the experiences that we have.
Yeah.
And one of the things that people remark about our tours is that we do share so many personal experiences that we've had and that our tour guests have had, and that we just seem to not be telling the stories that they can find online.
Yeah.
It's true.
The inside
It's true.
scoop.
Exactly.
And now, if somebody wanted to read your book about the hauntings at the Driscoll, where could they find that?
Amazon.com has all my books, True Haunted Tales of the Driscoll Hotel, as well as 2 other books that I've written, Godspeed and Happy Landings, which is a goal-setting book, as well as Star of Wonder, A Journey Back to Creativity, which I wrote as sort of a getting over grief exercise after Jim transitioned to that next realm. And it was about saying yes to whatever's next. So if you're stuck, either one of those books would be a tremendous help as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And if you have a haunted story that you would like to share, or even a fun story of an experience that has happened at the Driscoll for you or any other haunted hotel, you can email us
at skeletalespodcast@gmail.com. You can also call our Skeletales hotline and tell the story verbally. And Britt has that number.
302-689-DEAD, 302-689-3323. And we are on all of the socials that I can think of. And just search SkeleTalk Podcast.
Yeah. And then Monica, do you have any socials that you wanted to share with the audience?
Austin Ghost Tours is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I don't know if anyone's monitoring Twitter or not. But personally, some of my artistic and creative projects are at theperformancemuse.com. And you can find me there on Facebook as well.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
So be sure to check that out. Hey, Monica. Hey, Brett. Hey, guys.
What?
Haunt you later.
Haunt y'all later.
Good night.